Hello everybody, back again to my channel, and today we will forward for chapter 2 basic configuration, and we will discuss sub-chapter with configuration pod suite. And router commonly has couple Ethernet interface. For the example, RB75 IU-2HND with 5 Ethernet interface. Even though all interface is router interface, it means each interface must connect to different network. But that interface could use as the sweet spot as well. And if you look scenario from my video before, I connecting for unit computer user to Mikrotik router through one switch like this picture. Even though the router still have Ether 3, Ether 4, and Ether 5 that's still not used. So if you want to utilize that interface for replace with network topology, you can look like this picture. Okay. If in router, you would implement like topology above, so that you must considering is status from that three interface. Three interface must configure as slave and interface Ether 2 as the parent. You can look status from Ether port Mikrotik router. What that port stand alone as the master or become child to the another port or slave. Command that you can use are like this. I will show you. If not at the column master port is none, so that interface is interface standalone or master. This means that interface must connect to different network with different interface. But if you want to use interface Ether 3, Ether 4, and Ether 5 to connect to the same network with interface Ether 2, like at the picture 2.3. So the command that you can use like this. So the result from that interface will look like this. Label S at the front Ether 3, Ether 4, and Ether 5 send if that interface already become user sweet spot and interface Ether 2 become parent. Note at the column master port is Ether 2. If you use Winbox configuration, can do through menu interface and then on top it Ethernet. Like the picture 2.5. At the menu above, you just double click Ether interface that you want to configure.
Hey guys, before we discuss next further about my video, kindly to subscribe. Thanks.
Okay, for the next configuration IP address. According to the scenario that we're planning, so IP address we will configure at the Ether 1 is 60.1.1.2/30. Command that you can use to configure IP address at the Ether 1 is like this. Okay. Whereas for Ether 2, you must configure IP address 10.10.10.1/24. Command that we can use are like this. Okay. After both IP address configure, check again that configure with command line like this. And if you use Winbox, so configuration can do through menu IP address and then button at like this capture. I will show you. To delete one IP address, for the example, want to delete IP address 60.1.1.2 at the ether 1, so you can use command like this. Okay, you can look. Oh yeah, before forward this chapter, let's we add again IP address that exists at the ether 1 before because we already deleted that interface. Okay, for the next chapter, we will discuss about the fault gateway. After configure IP address at the its interface, so for the next you must configure the fault gateway. The fault gateway used to get for router Mikrotik to toward internet. In this scenario, router ESP has IP address 60.1.1.1 and internet will delegate the IP address 0.0.0.0/0. For the command that we can use for configuring the fault gateway are like this. Check what the configuration default gateway already exists at the routing table router Mikrotik. You must find line with word DST address with 0.0.0.0/0 and gateway 60.1.1.1. Command that we can use are like this. I will show you. If you use Winbox, configuration can do through menu IP, root, tab router, and add menu. Okay, for the next, we will discuss about DNS server configuration. DNS server has function to mapping hostname or set domain at the internet become IP address. Need to remember that network computer including internet with communication with IP address, not with domain name like .com, net, or and so on. That's way to configure user computer or router that needing access internet, you must configure DNS, domain name system. According scenario, so DNS server that use is DNS server ESP with IP address 60.1.1.1. So the command that use is like this, okay. For the option allow remote requests, this is the content yes. Will make your Mikrotik router as the DNS server as well. So for the next DNS configuration at the computer, user enough pointing to the Mikrotik router and not pointing to DNS server on ESP anymore. This technique can save bandwidth because question DNS just give to your Mikrotik router. If you spin box, so configuration can you do through menu IP DNS button setting like this capture. Otherwise you configure more than one DNS server like this capture. To configure again IP address 118.82.28.82 at the DNS server. You can use command like this. After DNS configure, so should Mikrotik router already connect internet. You can test with tolping. Okay, for the next chapter we will discuss about Masquerade. Mikrotik router at this scenario is a router that exists between network public internet and network local. This is LAN. router that exists at this position must doing NAT. This is network address translation that has function replace IP address at its packet data that go out from computer user IP private and become IP address public that exists at the Ether 1. I not discuss theory about NAT more detail because I want this chapter just for practice. In implement NAT, canon Masquerade technique that is technique replace automatic IP address private become IP address public that exists at the Mikrotik. Let's view again NAT configuration that will do Masquerade at your Mikrotik router. Command that you can use like this. Okay, that you need pay attention at command above is option out dash interface Ether 1. This is because interface to use toward internet is Ether 1. Also with option action Masquerade that will make IP address sending IP 10.10.10.2 and 10.10.10.3 and etc. that exists at its packet data that go outside from Mikrotik router will use IP address public 60.1.1.1. And if you want to use Winbox to configure NAT, you can do drop menu IP and then firewall and then tap NAT. With Masquerade you can configure at tap action. After you configure NAT with Masquerade, so your computer user can access internet. You can test with the ping to set internet. For the example, www.google.com or directly test use your browser. Don't forget to configure IP address with default gateway to IP 10.10.10.1 at its computer user. Also with DNS Server that must configure to 10.10.10.1 like this picture. Until this step, I can say congratulations, you already built simple network. It's not that all computer user can access internet already. Keep watching my next video because next chapter is configuration additional that can make your network more easy to control, more secure, efficient, used to internet friendly. Okay, see you the next video.
Hello everyone, if you are new at my channel, don't forget to like, comment, share, tag, and subscribe. Okay, thanks.